Well, hello everyone. Welcome to VR Verdict Podcast, episode 123. I am PJ, and joining me today is Loic.
Hello, happy to be here.
Loic, you are from Victoria VR, and you're here to talk about. I honestly, is it a game? Is it an app? What could you describe Victoria VR to us?
So I'm the chief marketing officer. My name is Loic, and so Victoria VR it's a mix of both things that you just mentioned. On one part is a game, and on the other part is what we call the kind of like a creative playground. So it's basically a metaverse where you can do a lot of things that that are beyond gaming. So let's say working, doing your fitness. So imagine it's like a virtual world in which you come to do activities, basically.
That's really neat. I was, been talking to you guys since I think May, and I'm still, I know like there's different parts, but just in watching the video we have playing, like you're riding around on a hoverboard, and then you can be killing zombies in the tunnels, and it's just a lot going on.
It's so that's what we call the mini games, right? So the zombie, for example, that's a mini game, and that's you're going to be able to have some fun, doing kind of like the traditional game, like a MMORPG, where you're going to be able to do quests and whatnot. But you also be able to use just having fun. Like we're just in the process of releasing a how's it called, like a kind of like a police drill, where you go into the warehouse and you shoot at targets and stuff like that. So like a shooting range, basically. And again, that's kind of like a mini games, right? It's like, hey, today with your friends, you want to do something a little bit different. Imagine you're in the real world, you go to the mall and then you go to play your bowling, or you go play, laser tag and stuff like that. Here, in the metaverse, is kind of the same, right? You can do a lot of different things, and these ones in particular. For the hoverboard, it's a little bit different. So as if you were your friend going to do skating or whatever, you're going to be able to do and have fun with the hoverboard. One of you will be able to maybe build a circuit, like a track with different kind of like challenges, and then you'll be able to go through that with the hoverboard. But at the same time, the hoverboard is a not teleportation, sorry. It's a transportation vehicle, like a transportation mean within Victoria VR. So you'll be able to use it and to go from your plot of land, for example, to the main capital. You'll be able to basically fly in the sky and stuff like that. So that's why we're testing it right now, more in terms, like as you see right now, it's more like using right now it's more about the controls and having fun on a track, but down the road it's more than that.
That's awesome. How long has this Victoria VR been in development? Because you guys have a lot of videos of like really gorgeous like venues and scenery, and all, like you mentioned, all the different things to do. Like there's a lot going on. I'm just curious how long you've been working on this.
So officially, the company has been in function basically since 2018, and that's where like a small team, like a nucleus, really, like few like less than 10 people. They started, and they really as soon as the new headset, the new VR was available in terms of technology, like we had advanced, and then Unreal Engine was where it is right now, or actually back in a few years ago. Then that's when the team started to see the dream that they had could be achieved, and that dream was kind of like, you know, a kind of like an idea of Ready Player One, right? The idea of you uploading yourself into the metaverse, and being able to do more than just, you know, like the very basics that like just seeing a movie or seeing a screen or something like that, but really able to interact, participating. And we saw that myself, I since I joined Victoria VR, I dove back into the virtual world, right? The last time I tried, it was maybe 6 or 7 years ago, right? And I was like, okay, that's gimmicky. That's not really pretty. It's very dizzy, you know, it makes me dizzy and stuff like that. No games really. It's just a Jurassic Park type, you know, where you are, okay, it's amazing. You know, you got a big T-Rex, you know, running through you. And you're like, okay, that's cool. But, you know, what do I do now? And then you have fun for a few hours and you're done, right? But then I went on Oculus Store as soon as I got in Victoria VR. I wanted to be reacquainted with the technology, and oh my God, like all these games now, it's absolutely crazy, right? And I don't think people realize that, because there's a lot of, like, I had all my friends, you know, playing a lot of these games, you know, from Beat Saber to Thrill of the Fight and all of that, and people go absolutely bonkers. Right? They don't even know it exists. Right, and so it's actually very amazing. I do my fitness in VR now, right? So like I said, Thrill of the Fight, Creed, whatever, you know, I sweat, you know, like crazy. So there's a lot of things that you can do. You can play poker for fun, you know, you can, and it's more real than ever before. So I think we're getting there slowly. And Victoria, as you can see, the graphics, it's kind of like it's designed with Unreal Engine, right? Yeah. And so I think the improvement, it's so massive compared to what was available before. And now you can truly do some realistic graphics, right? That was the dream of the team. Right, that's why they say, okay, we do not go VR until something is the technology is ready to welcome something that looks lifelike, right? So sure. That's why, as you can see here, you feel like you're in a museum, right? Yeah. And so that's the idea there. We want to be as close as real life as possible in terms of graphics. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention the museum gallery type thing looks really great. Can't wait to see it like in digital person or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it just looks amazing. Like there's no like distortion or anything on the pictures from your video. Like it's just there. And it looks good.
And then you get really meta experience as well, right? You get a little interaction where you can collect things when you go into certain paintings. There's some interaction there, you know, something that some Easter eggs that you have to find or something like that. And these are meant to be NFTs down the road, right? And then you can buy them, you can expose them, you can, you know, whatever you want to do with it, like statues, like you can see here, like sky's the limit. Literally, when it comes to the type of interaction that you can have there.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up. I'm not very educated on NFT and blockchain yet. I'm still back here. But you guys are building Victoria VR off of like blockchain technology and whatnot. I don't know if you want to give a brief discussion on that, because like I said, I'm a total noob. I haven't got into that stuff yet.
Yeah, so basically, you know, that technology, blockchain, is from what I believe. I mean, I've been in crypto, I like interested on a personal level in crypto for a few years now. I make it 5 or 6. And so I saw the blockchain technology arriving. It's absolutely life shattering. Like in terms of technology, what you can do now is absolutely crazy. So basically, building a game on blockchain technology is what we call now Web3 for this type of activities, game design and whatnot, is bringing in a whole new level in terms of data. Right, how you handle the data, how you handle property, and that's the biggest thing of it all. Right, is that it's a technology like blockchain is about immutability. Right, it's like you cannot change the way a transaction has been done, for example, and NFTs, where you have basically a unique piece of digital property that you own, right? And it's yours because it's written in the ledger when it comes to the blockchain, and that makes it, like I said, immutable, and therefore nobody can contest it, right? So that means that you can sell it to somebody. You can always trace it back to the original owner, right? The guy who minted, the person who minted it, right? And so the interesting thing as well, and when we talk about royalties, for example, and proper ownership, you can definitely set up something where you minted an item, for example, and then you sell it, and then with every transaction that happened afterwards, which is if the person who bought it from you sell it to someone else and so on, right? For every transaction, because of the way the blockchain is built, you could potentially get a percentage royalties with every transaction, which solves some of the issues that you see with second market, right? For games, for example, when you have people buying a game, you're like, okay, I finished the game. What do I do now? Right? Okay, then you can sell it. But then the first person, for example, the distributor or the publisher who created the game, now get a commission for every transaction that's happening every time where the game is sold to another party. Then the publisher gets a little something, right? The percentage of the transaction, which I think it is a great thing, and it's the same with items. Basically, can you imagine a publisher where you have, let's say, you are a smith, like whatever, a blacksmith in a game, and you're building swords, whatever, and then you sell it to someone, and someone sell it to someone else, and so on. You get something. You can clearly create a business around it, right? So that's the idea. And of course, there's so many other stuff, like you can build a economy based on a token. For us, VR, that's the ticker for Victoria VR. It's VR, and you can basically build an entire economy around that, because you can use a token to actually be purchased in the game. But is that token, as long as it's listed in what you call CEX, which is a central exchange, or even DEX, decentralized exchange, as long as it's listed somewhere in one of these places, it has a value, a real life value, right? It can be exchanged for what we call fiat money, which is the old traditional, like the USD, the euro, the pound, and whatnot. And so you can, for example, go into the game, do activities, earn some tokens, and then sell it back to real, what we call real money, right? So it's all of that is it's absolutely amazing, right? That the use of blockchain is just like brushed the amount of utility that blockchain is bringing to the world, basically, to the gaming world.
Yeah, that's exciting, and like I said, I have a very high level understanding, but that's about it. But it is, as a gamer, when I was younger, it'd be like, the thought was always like, hey, if I could do this in a game and get paid for it, that'd be really neat.
Yeah,
that's actually starting. starting to happen. So that's crazy.
Exactly. I mean, I remember when I played games, I started my journey online, I don't know, in 1990, was it 6, maybe 5, something like that. I can't remember. But basically with games like Ultima Online, yeah, right. It's absolutely amazing. And then you had people literally already back then living their life. I'm not saying, I'm
Yep.
not judging. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying it happened. Right. And you
Yeah.
had people absolutely living their fantasies, and you had blacksmiths, and you had role players playing, whatever, bards. You had people playing orcs, elves, and whatever, right? And
Yep.
you had even place like Shadow Clan, created their own language as orcs and their own rituals, and that's absolutely amazing. So can you imagine if they had at that time a super like a economical support? Imagine EVE Online, it's the same concept, right? EVE Online, suddenly you build your starship and whatever, and it actually has a proper value, which you can argue can already had with their own where you can buy, you can sell the in-game currency and whatever. But can you imagine if it was simple and you can actually list your the whatever the thing that you build on the market, and people buy it, and then you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm taking some of my money, and then I'm exchanging some of that money to pay rent. It's a whole new life, right? And believe me, especially in EVE Online, you have people that could make rent and could live a living absolutely, on a monthly basis if they had the power to do so, and so let's say the legality, right? Because I don't think EVE Online would be too fine with that. But imagine the concept, right? So we are going towards that with what is still called pay to earn, even though we do not believe in the word play to earn. Something I like to insist on is that for us it's play and earn, in the sense that play is the first thing. You come into the world, you come into the game to play, to have fun with your friend and whatever. But if you get rewarded a little bit on the side, hell, why not? Right? It's not about these games that are played to earn, which is the finality is to actually make money. We think that's a wrong approach to it. That's a wrong way to go about it. For us, it's more about, hey, come, have fun, live your life online, and then you can still make money. If you open a business, and then that's a whole new in the era, for you. So, but yeah, we believe in the concept that the two should be connected.
That's exciting. Yeah, I can't wait to check that out, because like I said, I've been a long time gamer. Probably sounds like the same timeline you had. So yeah, there is something magical about, like you said, like if you're a blacksmith at a game and you actually build digital items and people really like them and sell them, and you can fund your life that way, and actually
I mean, I remember when I played EverQuest, there was on my server there was a guy or girl, I think it was a girl actually, and she was just taking like you would go to her and you would give her either a screenshot or just go and look at go to her to meet her into the world, and she would basically take a screenshot of your character, and she would draw them on real paper. Of course, she would draw them and do sketches of your character, and she would sell that, right? And we're talking 100, 150 a piece, right? And she reached a point where she could not do it alone anymore, right? She had like a backlog of dozen and dozen of people, because we're talking thousands of players on EverQuest, right? And you go through, all the other servers, and people want, hey, I want my, because that's what we have. We love our avatars. We love, the nicknames that we have. We kind of like relate to our digital persona, right?
Yep.
And there's something that is really dear to us. Right. So yeah, for smart people, creative people, savvy people, there's a lot of business opportunities in there.
That's what I like about you guys' setup, how you kind of explain, like, it's not just one thing, it's, everything. And you can go from like, I'm assuming, and at some point, like, I'm just talking, they haven't announced anything like this, but you could look like there's maybe some pirate stuff you could go do. You could go do like futuristic stuff. I saw a couple of shots of that. Like, you're just kind of encompassing everything. So, when you say avatar, so my first online experience was like Phantasy Star Online on the Dreamcast.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Long time ago. I used the name PJ, and I've been PJ ever since. Like, that's not my.
Exactly.
I've changed my middle name to PJ legally, but I've been PJ for like 30 years now. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy like that, because more people knew me as PJ than as my real name. So that's just kind of how
I had my real friends calling me Muad, because back then I was Muad'Dib. The Kwisatz Haderach. And so all my names since, I don't know, like since Warcraft 2 and Duke Nukem, basically, it was always around Dune, basically, right? So now I trade, in most of my games. It's always for me. It's always between Dune and Greek mythology, or let's say Greek history. It's always been. So, for example, now I kind of change him. It's Dienekes. If you read the book Gates of Fire from Pressfield, the book that inspired 300. The comic book, and then which inspired the movie. But the inspiration for the comic book was the book from I think it's Jason Pressfield or James, I can't remember. But yeah, it's called Gates of Fire, and it's amazing. But anyway, so because the Spartan, basically, I have a fascination for Spartan, and there's a mix between that in Dune. And there's a link between the Atreides family from Dune and the Greek ancient mythology. So yeah, sorry, I'm geeking out a little bit here.
That's awesome.
But yeah, like you, I have everybody knows me. I have people calling me Atreid or Muad, in real life, because that's been my handle, my nickname for 30 plus years, literally.
Yeah, that's. Like, my co-host, he's not here for this talk, but he's also my brother, and he's called me PJ more than my real name.
Yeah,
more than anything, And when I call him by his name, like if I'm talking to our sister or something, it's so weird to say his name instead of like, "Hey, Wookie," because he's been Wookie forever. So
exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, only us can understand that.
Yeah, to explain that to someone who doesn't have that, it sounds a bit odd, but
yeah, that's a gamer DNA right there.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you have a quite a background with working in games too. If you want to share some of that, you have a nice pedigree of big name games you've been part of.
Yeah. So basically, I think my brother always said that I was born with a joystick, at least in the hands. So as far as I remember, I was a player. I was a gamer. And so when came the study time and whatever, university and whatnot, I was like I'm not interested in anything. I just want to work in gaming, right? And back then I was in Paris, and there was not many studios that would welcome or developing games. Basically, there was only a few, but I was very lucky. There was a studio called Cryo Networks, and they're the one who did Captain Blood back then, and the first Dune, actually. And so, yeah, absolutely. I was like, okay, I absolutely love your games and blah, blah, blah. Please hire me, whatever I can do, and I talked to them like about all my gaming background and my gaming knowledge. And they were like, yeah, sure, come, we'll hire you. And so that's how I started, actually, in QA back then.
That's awesome.
And I realized very fast. So it was in 1995, if I remember. And back then, I was like, it's awesome to be part of a studio, but you know what? I want to write about all these games. Right, there's so many games that I play, Max Payne and Mafia back then, and then there was this game that were like I thought would absolutely change the world, and these were the first online games, right? And then you had Ultima Online. Because I was a big fan of Ultima, and I was like, okay, what is this game? It was in alpha stage, and I started, and I was like, my God, this is absolutely amazing. I'm literally with hundreds of people at the same time, and I was like, okay, this is life changing. And so at the same time, I was discussing with magazines, in France, and I was like, I would love to write for you guys. And they say, okay, well, you know what? Send us a review, and then we'll assess, and then we'll see. And so I sent, I think, the review of my life about Ultima Online. And I don't even think back then they actually knew what it was, right? And then, literally the week after, they say, okay, well, they will have you, come and work for us. And so I left Cryo back then, and then I moved immediately. It's one of the biggest ones called Generation 4, Gen 4. And I started immediately, and my specialty right off the bat was online gaming, right?
Nice.
So I discovered games for French people, game like Dark Age of Camelot, for example, where they were a tiny little studio in the US. And then I was literally scouring the net, finding the Neocron and all these tiny little game, mods and stuff like that. And I was just having my own feature, basically, where I was talking about all these games, all the craziness. I mean, think about it. Back then, it was only single player games, right? Yeah. It's very hard to imagine right now, but back then, it was only single player game, right? There was all these big blockbuster, like I was saying, Ubisoft games and whatnot, but there was none of these. It was still like Quake was still a weird thing, right, for most of the people. And I absolutely loved it. And I did 7 years of it. Wow. In and out, where I work for Game One, which was back then, belonging to Canal Plus, and so it was a TV channel. Basically, I moved from print to TV, where I had the same thing, feature editor, basically, where I was talking about online games and whatnot. Then I came back into PC Gamer, PC Jeux, the equivalent of the franchise PC Gamer back then. And I did all of that. And then, I was full on. And then I got connected with the guy from, which back then were building, Sony Online Entertainment, which I love because of EverQuest, right? And they were building EverQuest, and they wanted me to help on all the translation and all of these. And I was like, sure, And so I started slowly there, and immediately after I got NCSoft the famous Korean publisher, located in UK, in Brighton, and they called me and say, "Hey, would you like to come and handle, community management for us?" And I've always been part of communities, right? I always, like, whether in games where I build guilds, or just taking care of being on forums and whatnot. And so I said, I remember I just had bought my apartment, and I was literally 6 months in, and I'm like, all right, let's go. And so I left France, and then I moved to Brighton, where I spent close to 9 years. No, 7 years? 7 years, something like that, yeah. Wow. And I worked on Guild Wars, City of Heroes back then, help on like I did. I went up the ladder, basically, from community coordinator to head of community for Europe and all of that. So I did some good games, some bad games like Tabula Rasa and whatnot, but it was fascinating. I was with amazing teams, and I absolutely loved it. And then back then we had a new studio in California, who was building Wildstar back then, like a MMORPG, kind of like one of these supposedly successor of World of Warcraft, and we really clicked with the team. I remember we went to Gamescom, and I created a very interesting kind of like we build online in real time with the audience. We build a big raid boss together. It was called Metalmo. Basically, actually, the community came up with the name, but it was like a big aquatic monster with jetpack. It was absolutely mind blowing. You had the lead character artist, and it was basically, and we were talking. Okay, so what kind of monster is it? So we've got, it's a big lizard. Okay, well, it's a big lizard. So the guy start drawing, the lizard and stuff like that. Okay, so what kind of superpower does he have? Like throw laser. Okay, well, the guy goes like, okay, laser. Oh, he has jetpack. Oh, he does this, does that, and the guy is absolutely amazing. He's drawing, and then we end up with a sketch, and then for a year after that, we followed the creation of the red boss being built, from rigging to sketching and whatnot, adding sound effect and whatever, and then encounter team, build him in the game. Well, it was just amazing, right? And the team absolutely loved the idea, that how we dare to do something like that with the German audience back in Gamescom back then. And then on the spot, literally say, do you want to come and work for us in the US? And so I said, who say no? Who can say no to such a proposal, right? Back then it was kind of like California, it's the hub of all the magical studios, right? So I was like, okay, let's go. And so I left, and then I went to live in Orange County, and I worked for them. And meanwhile, sorry, I'm doing it. I don't know how long how much time do you have? But
this is awesome.
So I keep going, and then basically at that time I was like, I was discovering. I had played for a few years since the beta a leader game that literally exploded. That was a League of Legends from Riot Games. And I was a big fan, right? I was myself a big player of it. And then I got contacted, and I said, "Hey, we're open. We have our office, European office in Dublin, Ireland, and we would love if you would come and take care of the French territory, basically, for us." And I was like, you know what? I don't think you can say no to Riot Games, especially at that time. It was absolutely like the top of the top, right? You can't do, maybe with Blizzard back then, you could top it up, but I think that's in my heart, Riot is still one of the top two game company in the world, right? And so I was like, yeah, of course, yeah, I'm coming, right? And so I moved to Dublin, Ireland, where I stayed for close to 4 years, I think. And I had the most magical journey. You know, I learned so much. These guys are absolutely crazy, crazy good. And took care of friends, you know, and in terms of building community, it taught me so much, right? I had a fully dedicated team, player first mentality, you know, and we were on the ground. We went to, Japan Expo and Paris Games Week and all these different places. And it was all about for the community, right? How can we help them? Cosplayers, you know, we did a lot of stuff for them, with them. It was absolutely amazing, right? We organized, like, we created something called Club of Legends, right? Which is with all the PC cafe back then, right? There was like a tiny little structure, but we say, hey, we're going to federate all of them, you know, so we transform them from just being a PC cafe to being we give them champions name, and, you know, we help them brand up. It was amazing, right? It was so enriching, basically, for everyone, I think. And then, you know, I'll be honest with you, I would have stayed probably the rest of my life in Riot, but you know how life is sometimes. You know, the politics and stuff like that comes in. They open, so that's the thing. They open the country offices in France, you know, UK, Germany, whatever. And I just couldn't see myself. Back at that point in my life, I was a globetrotter, right? I had lived so many years outside of France and I loved it, that I just could not see myself going back to France, right? So I didn't have any, it was, time was too short to find an alternative. And so I basically moved away, and I went to a publisher in Germany, but a Texan publisher located in Houston, and we did a game called Dreadnought. And so, you know, a journey like this, and then after that, I did that for a year and a half or something like that. Loved the team, but you know, the game was not really my thing. I would say I need to have like a love, you know, for what I'm doing to be able to do it properly. And then after that, completely change of scenario, moved to Cyprus, where I went into the financial, because I was back then in blockchain and in crypto. That was my big thing. So I was like, okay, let's try a new direction. And so, yeah, I moved over there. And then I worked in crypto for a little bit. And then until I got called back by a studio in Sweden, in Malmö, and they were building a battle royale on the Vampire the Masquerade franchise, and it was called Blood Hunt, basically. I love the team. I love the spirit. I love that Tencent was behind. You know, I love the way Tencent do business, as they did in Riot Games. And so I was like, okay, you know, if they bought the studio 100% at the time, before even releasing a game, then, you know, there must be something there. And so I joined, and I joined for 2 years. And, you know, how it is, sometimes you don't necessarily get what you thought you would get. And even though I love the team and all of that, I had not a big love for that specific game. And so, yeah, I just decided to chase different, adventure. And back then, again, I got called back into this time blockchain gaming, because when I was in Cyprus, it was more like financial and DeFi and all this stuff. So it was more like money, centric. But here I was going back to my true love, my true passion, which is crypto, blockchain, and gaming. And so along the month and whatnot, I ended up with Victoria VR because not only they were doing games, they were doing blockchain, but they were doing something I was not familiar at all with, which is virtual reality. And I was like, wow, this is a triple combo that is amazing to me. And I absolutely love the team, the ambition, the empathy, the kindness, and I was like, okay, yeah, I got to see it through, right? I got to see the adventure. And since then I've been here, right? And I absolutely love it. The guys are crazy. The tech knowledge that the team have is actually bonker. Our CEO is one of a kind. He's a tech genius, and then our CEO is CEO. Like all these guys, they're like super savvy and super motivated, and there's a love for community that I truly appreciate. Right, I need to be in a company that understand that that there's a certain way to build community, right? And sure, we are building a crypto project, but what we are building is towards we are building a game / universe, right? I mean, metaverse and / virtual world. And so we need to appeal to these people. We need people need to adopt Victoria VR, right? And that comes with a certain way of thinking, which is which not all blockchain and gaming, Web3 gaming has as of yet, right? Or to be honest, even what we call like Web2 and traditional publishers, not everyone has it, right? This kind of like this kind of DNA that I already have in my heart, but literally polished in Riot Games, which is all for the gamer, right? It's all about the gamer. Make sure your game is good. Make sure the people want to come back, and then they will reward you, with the hard-earned cash, basically. So yeah. Sorry,
I love to hear you say that. Because I think
it's been speaking for an hour.
Oh no, that's super interesting. You've had quite the journey. But I love hearing you say, player first, player focused community. Because I think a lot of companies, and there's been such an explosion in the games industry that a lot of that's been lost that used to exist more.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I've said this before on the podcast where, I'm a huge gamer, but a couple years ago it was like, am I getting older, or games getting worse, or something's happening? And that's where VR came in and kind of, air quotes, saved my life, where I'm like, this is a whole new thing. Like, all the developers are amazing. They're really like passionate and into what they're doing, which, traditional gaming was kind of just like cut, print, repeat, just the same old happening. So
yeah,
that's
why despite me being working in with some pretty big publisher, but there was always a desire to innovate or to do something different, right? Which is why I absolutely love the indie scene, right? Because all these games, FTL and even Minecraft in its time, right? Absolutely amazing, right? It reminds me of the time where graphics were not the most important things, and it was all about the gameplay. How can you keep your game interesting so that people want to play it? Because you only have pixels, right? It's absolutely ugly. So how do you make the best games, And then it was all around the gameplay. So you had game like Midwinter back then, Iron Lords, and fond memories of. And of course, now I look at them and I'm like, wow, it's like, how could I even play these games, right? But it's all relative, right?
Yep.
And of course, now it's all about chasing. I mean, most of these games, especially AAA game as we call it, it's more about chasing the graphics, right? Chasing the beauty, and that's a great thing. But sometimes it's at the expense of innovative gameplay and emergent gameplay and stuff like that. And that's why I love the indie scene, because they don't care. They don't care at all. They are like, you know what? We are like 5 of us, 10 of us, whatever. We just need a little sustain, to be able to. And if we hit the jackpot, then let's go. But I'm going to do what I want to do, right? What I truly believe in. And you end up with, divinity, and of course, some of these start indie and they get so much success that they become like, like I was saying, Lion, for example, started small, but now they're like a true publisher, like a big company and stuff like that. But some of these games are just amazing, and so that's the thing. Innovation. I don't want to get bored. I don't want to. So that's also what I love. In my gaming, I love simulations, or realistic, as realistic as possible. So, for example, FPS. For example, I was always around. I started with Battlefield 2, and then I played a mode called Project Reality back then, and he opened my mind to what it means to play a real, like, hardcore simulator. Soldier simulator, basically, and then turn into Arma, and all these things, and Red Orchestra, and all these games. And now I can only play, like, my last one was Escape from Tarkov, right? It doesn't get much more realistic or hardcore than this, and it makes you feel alive as a gamer. I don't know if you experience that much anymore, but when I play a game of Tarkov, even before I launch the game, my heart is beating like there's no tomorrow, right? And when I get a kill, I feel like, exhilarating, and I'm afraid to make one step around the corner because I'm gonna get sniped or something like that. Because of course, there's a feel of you're going to lose everything you have on you, your entire inventory or whatever. So it gives you a desire, of not to die, right? You get loss aversion, basically, as it's called. And but not every publisher would go like, oh yeah, we're going to do a game, and when you die, you lose everything that you have in your inventory, right? People don't dare to do anything. And back then, Ultima Online was like that. You could get ambushed and killed, and everything you had on you, boom, gone. You lost maybe a year or a month, whatever, of wealth that you accumulated. Well, it's gone. But it made you feel like, it made you feel something. Now, most of the time, I play games and I'm bored after 2 hours, right? I'm talking AAA games, So unless it's a narrative game, like a God of War, these amazing, games where the narrative is huge, it's beautiful, it's very fun. Then I play for the story, right? But when I play for the multiplayer, when I play for the players, with the players, I need something that keeps me awake, basically.
That's crazy. But yeah, it's definitely like, I know I love the fact that games like that make you feel like you put your time in, and if you die, it's gone, and you got to start from scratch. I appreciate that, and that's like a weekend type of game for me. But like during the week, it's like, I only have like 20-30 minutes to play, and I don't want to just go do something that major, if I die, then it's going to ruin my night. So then, you go do these other little games. But I agree. Like you do feel like it's way more immersive when there's something on the line and you know
Yeah,
you can lose it. That's it's
exactly.
pretty. Like you said, your heart was pounding before you even got in there in the
Yeah,
match.
yeah,
So
yeah. And yeah, that's a very, and sometimes it makes you afraid even to watch to start the game, right? Something has an adverse. It's like, okay, no, I'm not in the mindset. I'm not in a good enough mindset to be able to play the game, right?
hmm
Because you need to feel good, basically.
yeah.
But you know, I'm like you. During the week, I don't have much time, so basically, sometime I do a little bit of VR as well, and I try to polish my knowledge of what VR has to offer. Right, from fitness to puzzle game, narrative with the Dance Vader game. I can't remember the name of it now, but these type of things, even mini golf, or, something like that
Yeah.
with my son. Uh, well, having fun. It's and VR is definitely way more fun now, and you can have some absolutely amazing experiences, right? So, yeah, brings us back to Victoria VR, but basically, um, I think there is definitely it's still niche at this time, of course, but I think as the tech progresses and there's more and more adoption from publishers, they do more crazy games, then it's going to bring a lot more people, and it's going to be a part of the future, definitely.
So one last question for you from my end. So you guys are, you mentioned metaverse and trying to build out a metaverse. Like, what do you guys think when you hear like Facebook talk about a metaverse and their vision and goals? Like, it's kind of different from everyone else's. So, just
Yeah,
curious what your standpoint on that is.
I mean, I respect that. The idea is I guess it has a sense of replicating the world one to one, in a sense that's how I interpret it. At least it's kind of like chatting with your friends and having some fun with an avatar or something like that. But for and we share some of these visions, right? For us, a metaverse, for example, is it's kind of like a 3D version of internet, right? Now everything is digitalized, right? You shop online, you do your things online, whatever you discuss online, you play online, you work online, and we want um, to have some of that, right? And that's the playground, the creative playground that I mentioned. But there's also we want it to be a game as well, right? And that may be the thing that Facebook is not necessarily exploring, at least not from what I know about. But you know what? Kudos to them as well. They renamed themselves to Meta, and the word metaverse exploded in Google search, giving all this exposure to all these other games, us included, right?
Yeah.
So I'd be remiss to actually, talk bad about any of that. Now the vision, I don't know, they're still a bit secret about what they're building, right? So nobody truly know what they are working on properly, right? So, but I'm very curious to see what kind of a path they're going to walk, right?
hmm
But yeah, something tell me that we'll probably be on a different path with them. Yeah.
I wonder, people that aren't into VR, like, I don't want to say like just a normal person, but um, what they think nowadays when they do see the word metaverse, because
That's the thing. Everything is a metaverse now.
yeah,
Like I was saying, I was saying
so
in
many
a different,
versions.
yeah, and so many interpretation, right? For us, like I told you, it's like for us a metaverse has a virtual reality component to it. That's how we see it. Imagine Ready Player One, kind of like, the immersion is 360, the immersion is total. So that's kind of like how we see a metaverse. But now everyone, either intentionally or unintentionally, claiming that they are metaverse. Like people, I was saying that in another podcast, but people say that, for example, a Fortnite is a metaverse now, right? I don't think they ever called, and I don't even think that they qualify themselves as metaverse. But some people say, metaverse, Fortnite, and so, because they have different franchises. They have Dragon Ball that invite itself into the metaverse. They have, a lot of amazing experience. They had Martin Luther King celebration within, for example, the world. So they recreated a museum for him and so absolutely amazing stuff. But for us, that's not really what a metaverse is about, right? For us, it's about having a sense of activities that you're doing in there, right? It's kind of like transcend reality. I would say it's an extension of reality, right? It's like you do your thing, and hey, you want to escape a little bit. You can escape by reading a book. You can escape by playing games. You can also escape by traveling into a different world and doing things, right? But it's also and that's where we get closer. We warm up to a meta. You can work, right? You can have a productive meeting with your friend in your office's digital office. You imagine a WeWork office, for example, whatever, online, and you have a wide screen, but you just talk and interact through VR, right? For us, that's possible as well. You go on a Saturday evening and you're like, you know what? I want to go to the dance club, right? But you don't want to walk. You don't want to go out. Hell, you want to go into dance club that only play your kind of music or whatever. Well, then it so happened that, for example, Victoria VR has the famous nightclub where you go in and then you can communicate, dance with your friends. You have different type of music. You have different type of rooms, whatever. Maybe it's a branded club that is well known in the world, whatever. You can have this type of experience in the future, right? Eventually, that might happen. And I mean, for me, it's absolutely mind-blowing because we have a tendency, and everybody is a culprit in this, and myself included. Sometimes, like, you feel like, oh, nobody will do that, right? It's like, oh, I'm tired. I wouldn't want to do that. Yeah, but there's some people that do. There's some people that live a completely different life than us, or whatever. That some people that, like I was saying, you can say whatever you want, but you can really reinvent and reimagine yourself into the verse, into the metaverse as an avatar. And there's some people that don't have the happiest life in real life, maybe discrimination, racism, whatever, and some people need to escape, and I've seen that through all my life as a gamer, that people, and that's why there's such a strong connection with their avatar, right? Is that they recreate their life, and people can judge, oh, why don't they do that in real life? Like, don't judge, dude. Don't judge. Like, you are in no position to judge other people situation, mindset. And so the idea is to give, and that's where we are. We want to give opportunity, right? We want to give, if that's your thing, then come join us. You're more than welcome. Whoever you are, whatever walk of life you're from, there's a place, except of course if you're a hater, but there's a place for you in our world, right? That's who we build it for, you know. Everybody that wants
that
to.
sounds awesome. I'm glad to hear you say that, because that is important. Like the whole avatar thing you're saying, like, you know, that's why we get, you know, a lot of our guests and a lot of the people that come back a lot, like, you know, where my avatar? Like we have these little pill hands.
Yeah.
It's the first thing we hear, but it is so important to, you know, have that representation of yourself and you be able to build it to what you want. Like in Neos VR, like you go in there and there's people that spend hundreds of hours on their avatars and they look fantastic and wow, you know.
I mean, look at Second Life, right? The daddy before, like even before, like daddy of the metaverse, I would call. You still have people like thousand, if not 100,000 people playing the game, and I think it's most of the reason is their life and their avatar, and you know, that's the thing, you can reinvent yourself, and now you know, we can say whatever we want about Meta or whatever, but look, the latest Quest Pro that they just released, now you can tell the expression, you know, face expression, and you can recognize it. My God, this is amazing. This is next gen stuff. Can you imagine in 5 years or whatever where we will be? It basically, you can relate directly to not only a human but a digital character, because of the eyes, because of the expression. That's what we need, you know, as human being. We need to see a cue in other people's face about what we're talking about. You know, maybe a nod or a little smile, or you know, a eyebrow, a raised eyebrow, whatever. But now you can do it on an avatar. To be honest, I didn't think it was possible before a few years, right? So I was like, holy shit, that's amazing. And that gives me hopes for the future, because with haptic devices, that's the future, right? Once you're able to properly touch, interpret, you know, probably touch, smell, you know, interpret people's expression, you're there, you know. The rest is just about developing the app, but the technology is there.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's very exciting. VR has just shot like up so fast.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, it's like blockchain, right? It's the I think if I remember correctly, like is growing like 130% per year. It's like the fastest technology in the history of mankind in terms of growth, or even more than internet. So, you know, VR might be behind, but it's still, I think it's still exploded, and it had a parabolic growth since few years, you know. And and I think that we just started, because I see the type of games that keep being released, and they're pushing the envelope. Every game that gets released push the envelope in terms of, you know, realism, you know, and these devs are so smart, you know, in the way they develop. They used, you know, they use technology to, you know, make it their own. Yeah, I don't know exactly how to say it, but basically they are just playing, you know, with technology and making it, absolutely amazing for the rest of us.
Yeah, it's the tricks and methods they use.
Exactly.
It's, we do a round table in here once a month with a bunch of devs, and just them sharing tips and tricks and what they've done to get something to work is just, to me, it's mind blowing. I'm not a programmer or developer at all, so I find it super interesting. But
and our guys, Victor, I was in the studio last week, We are in Prague, by the way. The studio, the entire studio is in Prague, which is a quite an important thing for a blockchain project. I keep drumming it, but we have a decentralized game, but a fully centralized team, except me and another guy. The rest of the team is actually entirely centralized in. So that's quite odd, right, for a Web3 project where all the teams are well known to be, it's a remote industry, basically. It's a decentralized industry. And we believe in it, but it's just so happened that the whole team is in Prague and building the thing. But what I meant to say is that we have dev, we have architect, we have crazy dev. And then you have also the guys that they're building AI, AI-powered gameplay and stuff like that. And I can't talk much about it yet. I want to slowly unveil it, but these guys are kind of crazy, man. It's like wow. It's like they're pushing what you hear about, of course, AI, with text written by AI, picture drawn by AI, video created by AI.
Yeah.
These guys in our team, they're not far behind. They're following the trend and they're exploring. And it's like, okay, how can we use this type of technology to scale, right, within our games? Because AI is meant to scale, to automate, the kind of like things that can be automated and reach the next level in terms of creativity and whatnot. And so I'm always amazed about. I feel so. I wouldn't say useless, but I feel so like these are the real guys, right? These are the real, the real devs, basically.
So, one last thing. I already said one question, but I'm just curious. Like Victoria VR, like when do you guys plan on like opening your gates, as it were, or have you, or like when can people expect to hop in and be part of the community or Metaverse?
Yeah. So basically, we're already available somehow, in the sense that we are in alpha. We are in alpha stage, but private alpha. Very small. You can only have, I think, 300 people at the time in Oculus. Right now in alpha stage. So we have a few hundred people in there helping us, testing the game and testing some of the things that you saw there. And then after that, we'll move into beta stage, and then there'll be all the multiplayer and all the thing where you can start to experience the metaverse itself, and the first element of the game, of gameplay and whatnot. And then after that, later down the road, we'll be releasing the game. I don't want to put a date on it because, to be honest, I don't have it, and I know very well, as probably you do as well, the development cycle is never what you think it's gonna be. So my idea is more following the product roadmap and the production roadmap, basically, and just piggybacking on them, and just my goal is to sync my team, the whole marketing team, with the production team and the dev, and just inform the players as much as possible about what's happening. So the next stage is in few weeks, month, where we're going to have the next iteration of the alpha, in which we will have close quarter, the CQB is close quarter battle, which I talked about, the shooting range before. And so, the drill and all of that. So that'll be implemented, and, we'll be doing some other things, implemented, fixing bug, adding more stuff in there, and then releasing a batch, switching the rotating the testers, to make sure that everyone can have a test And yeah, and basically people can join us on all our social networks, especially Discord and Telegram. That's where we are the most active right now. But as we ramp up the team, we'll be active in way more channels. But yeah, it can be part of the community, and we'll build together basically.
That's exciting. I'm glad to hear that. And I thank you for coming on here and giving us your time and sharing your journey and your guys' future visions and plans for Victoria VR. This has been awesome.
Cool.
And
well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, anyone watching, listening, I'll share all the links to you guys' Discord and all that you mentioned, and so you can quickly find them.
Cool.
But yeah, awesome. I'm sure we could probably go on for a while yet and talk about some more things. But
you need to shut me up already.
No,
I keep going.
Yeah, I love the passion. Like that's what got us to start the podcast, was just the devs' passions and vision, and it's just so exciting to hear and see. And I can't wait to be able to pop in here and hang out with people and check out what you guys have been up to. And
cool.
It's going to be great.
I'll definitely give you an in when we're ready.
Sweet.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. Catch us next week with the next guest. Wookie will be back, but this has been Loic from Victoria VR, talking about his journey and their metaverse.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.